never be in this community, and perhaps in American law, somebody in his craft who achieved the pinnacle of success that he did.
He opened so many doors, making it possible for people to know that you can use the courts as a tool to make major corporations do right.
Look at the hundreds and hundreds of people whose lives he's improved just because he loves what he does.
What a man of great character and integrity. If Joe Jamail gives you his word, it is absolutely good.
If he's a friend of yours, he's a friend for life, and I could tell very quickly that he was a wonderful friend.
The whole world needs to know a lot about Joe Jamail. He's led a great life, and he's still got a lot to go.
His generosity, his wit, his point of view is priceless. I think that he makes the world around him a better place.
There is indeed a legend of Joe Jamail, but it's very much located in this place being the state of Texas, not necessarily in this time. I think Joe stands in a long tradition of powerful plaintiffs' attorneys who purge the world of the injustices that they find before them.
Joe was already an established lawyer, and this jerk sued me, and I didn't even know Joe other than by reputation. And I went to see him, and he said, I'll be happy to help you. I think you have the just side of this. I think they're trying to mistreat you. I'll help you, but under one condition. I know you're starting out and you've got talent, but you're struggling economically, and never try to pay me for this service. Condition that you don't ever try to pay me, I'll represent you. And he did, and he did it successfully. And that's been, that was the beginning of our friendship, and it's endured all these years.
And I'll never forget, I called Joe and said, Mr. Jamail, I'm Mac Brown. I'm calling to get permission to coach on your field. And he said, well, you better get permission from me to get on the field and coach, or I wouldn't have let you. Glad you called, but you've got it. Now let's go win some games. But at this dinner, I'll never forget, he looked at me and he said, I'm going to make a deal with you, boy. And I said, what's that, Joe? And he says, you don't lawyer and I don't coach, because you don't know anything about lawyering and I don't know anything about coaching. And I said, Joe, we got us a deal right there.
First time I met him, the congressman brought me to Houston from Washington, D.C., and we went to Joe Jamail's office to visit with him. So I figured here's this intelligent, wealthy, high-powered, supercharged lawyer. And I walked in the office, and he was respectful to the congressman, and then he turned to me and said, so who's this young shit?
Joe looked at me and says, hey, boy, you that new baseball coach we got here? I said, yes, sir. He said, well, I've given every one of these damn coaches around here a bunch of money. I haven't given you a dime. You call my office Monday morning, I'm giving you $25,000. And that was it. And he did.
I happen to think that Joe Jamail personifies all that is good about this country. Joe grew up under tough circumstances. He was a fighter when he was a kid, sort of a hard-scrabble existence at that time. We became good friends, and we've been good friends for a long time since then. That may be because we're both Marines.
Joe served in the Marine Corps in Guam in the Second World War. He came back a very sick man. He had malaria. But I'm convinced that Joe, after he survived Guam, decided that there was just nothing else on earth that was ever going to frighten him. And I think that that made a major impact on Joe, and I think it's made a major impact on the way he's approached his life.
He worked hard, and he studied, and he became a terrific lawyer. He made a lot of money. It didn't go to his head, and he has supported so many wonderful causes. He's a very generous person. His life really personifies the American dream, I think.
Houston is a place where somebody chooses their own path, can make their own way. And for that matter, the legal profession in Houston is especially a place where it doesn't matter who your daddy was or what what country club you're a member of. It's who you are. It's a very competitive environment. And Joe's the type of person who succeeds in that environment. Oh, he tended to be sort of casual, and you'd hear some words coming out of his mouth that a lot of lawyers don't come out of their mouth. But don't kid yourself. I mean, he took great pride in being good at his craft. Very well prepared, very thorough. And anybody who attended that Pennzoil Texaco trial, you'd see judges in the audience, you'd see some of the best trial lawyers in the country sitting in the audience because you knew that you were in the presence of a master.
He's self-deprecating. He's got killer charm. He's as quick as a snake. He can size up a jury pool in the time it takes most of us to introduce ourselves to the jury pool. He can tell who comes in with their mind made up, even as they're sitting there denying it. No one's ever done it better.
I saw him during the Pennzoil and a couple of other cases where he just understood what the core issue would be. And it might not be the core issue a law professor would see. I also found that unlike some trial lawyers, he in some ways was much less of a prima donna. It was quite civilized, it was quite collegial, and it wasn't one of those it's all about me type of shows. And I always appreciated that. He's one of the most fair-minded people I've ever met. I mean, he doesn't have one iota of racial or gender discrimination in him. I mean, and when he stands before the juries, he's the real thing.
I think Joe Jamail's greatest achievement has been being a role model, being able to take his unique ability to connect with people on a jury and give a complex fact situation a human face, figuring out how to get into the soul, the heart, the mind of a juror. It's a remarkable art. It's a talent that very few have, and he took it to a level. He raised the bar.
I have never been on the other side. I've seen what it's like, and I don't ever want to be there. It's ugly. If he gets you in the crosshairs, you're toast.
You're toast.
You're done.
I have literally seen other attorneys at a deposition table shaking so badly that their papers are shaking.
Joe's that kind of guy. As good as it gets when it comes to being determined to do what you want to do. And I think that word independence sort of has to be in there because we all feel it and we all admire that trait in other people. And I look for somebody who does it the way he wants to do it. And there are not that many of them out there.
I remember he said when he first started his own law firm and he walked down the hall and a group of people ran out to meet him and say hello and, boy, we're glad you're here, Joe, and all that. And another group stayed in their offices and worked. He fired all the ones that ran out to see him because he thought they should have been working. And then he went back down the hall and said, thank you for you guys working. We got some other people we need to hire that weren't doing their job. So that's the kind of great boss, but tough boss and very demanding that Joe is.
He's fierce. He's got the discipline.
He's a
And
machine.
he's a machine. He is.
He's a machine.
He's a machine. I
He's
mean,
got
there's
so much energy.
There's times
It's-
when we leave here before he does, and he is still at it. This is his life. These people mean everything to him. And if he takes you on as a client, he takes them under his wing. He's responsible for their future.
I was a police officer in Pasadena for, I guess, 10, 11 years. I was involved in a on-duty accident with an 18-wheeler. Basically, they didn't think I was going to survive the flight from the scene. I'd lost so much blood, and it had partially amputated my right leg at the knee. You know, I was concerned whether I was even going to be able to go back to work as a police officer at all, much less try to regain the mobility I had before I got injured. And that's when I met Joe. The way the defense had come at us so hard, and the way the trucking company was fighting this case, they didn't want to pay a dime. He just took me under his arm, you know, like my dad would, and said, look, things are going to be okay. Don't worry about this. We're gonna win this case. I believe in you. And he just really pumped me up. And Joe has put us in a position to where we don't have to worry about the future.
Maybe because of the way he was brought up, maybe some of the discrimination that he experienced in his lifetime, he's a guy who has always had more of an interest in helping the underdog, the little guy or the little woman. And that has defined Joe Jamail more than anything else. I was trying to raise some money for a guy who'd been wrongfully convicted of a rape that he didn't commit. And I was trying to raise money to help this young guy go to law school. So I called Joe up. Maybe I could fix my lips to ask for $2,500. And Joe Jamail said, well, God damn it, I was wondering when you'd call. How much money does it take to go to law school? And I didn't know if he was trying to help or if he was just going into one of those tirades. And I said, well, I think maybe $45,000. And if you could just give me $1,000 or $2,500. He said, well, come get the goddamn check. So I went over there and it was a check for $45,000. So it really touched me that he would decide to not just do the big things that we read about, but something that you never hear about, to write a check for $45,000 for someone to go to law school who had been wronged by the system.
I think that Joe was always wanted to see and help the back side of the tapestry of life and help those that were disadvantaged. And I think that was something that was instilled in Joe by his mother, to help the weaker, help the poor, help people that can't help themselves. He's done a darn good job of doing that.
The people that would walk into Joe Jamail's office were people that otherwise were not going to have a voice in the legal system unless somebody like Joe helped them. And I think that's what motivated him.
If your average plaintiff who is injured has no shot without Joe or somebody like Joe, they have no shot against the people that injured them. They can't even afford to file a lawsuit. And he wants to even that playing field. Mm-hmm.
He can't stand phonies. He can't stand people who are sort of sweaty and after something from him. He is able to perceive when people are genuine and when they deserve help and when they're not trying to take advantage of some circumstance. And that's the way he lives his life.
We have such a family work atmosphere because Mr. Jamail is such a family-oriented type person. He would stop in a second for one of his family. And you got to admire that. It makes you realize that, yeah, I'm at work and what I do has value, but the true value is home.
I met Joe and my sister became engaged to him. Her roommate was Joe's sister, and Florence, and she introduced Joe to Lee, and then their relationship took off from there. Joe had someone to talk to, and Lee was very interested in each one of these cases that he had, and they talked it over, and every evening, over and over, they would go over until he really would firm up on a case. And she loved him and she supported him. And a lot of times he needed just encouragement. He needed someone to listen to him. He needed to try out his voice. You got to find your voice in law. And I think with Lee he did.
I'm convinced that Joe Jamail would not be known as the king of torts, or would not have achieved the great heights he's achieved without the stabilizing influence, and a mighty influence it was from a very small person in stature, and that's Lee Jamail, and one that Joe recognizes and one that he sorely misses on a daily basis.
You learn very quickly to understand how people should treat their wives. Nobody's ever treated or loved anybody more than Joe loved Lee, and it was fun for us to watch. We've all missed Lee so much.
Joe and Lee were soulmates, and I think everybody who ever met her had the same reaction. We all miss her.
Joe Jamail represents someone who has committed his life to the rule of law and the values of the Constitution and the values of fundamental justice still further above it. And that's what I think he means most of all to me, at least as Dean of the University of Texas School of Law.
I would think the university means everything to Joe because so much of his life, other than his immediate family growing up, has been in Austin at the University of Texas. And He's given back in so many ways, as we said, to the law school, to the swim center, to the athletic department in general, to the football stadium. The amount of free legal service he's given to the university is just, it's unknown how many dollars he saved the university.
Some years ago, when we had problems attracting more African-American students in particular to the University of Texas Law School, Joe Jamail, on his own, just decided that he'd put money up to recruit more African-American students to go to that law school.
He saw his great university threatened. He wanted poor kids of any race or ethnicity to have access to the university. God had blessed him with the means to help out, and he did it. You know, that was just classic Joe Jamail.
His name is on the football field, Joe Jamail Field. That didn't get there by accident. He comes to all the games, and I sit in the box with him. And we know if we've got a home game, we're sitting with Joe. I think Joe has handled his fame and his money, being in the bracket he's in. I think he's handled it extremely well. I think all of us can look back to our roots and think back when things weren't going so well. And Joe never has forgotten where he came from.
The fact that he is now worth a lot of money has not changed him and not changed his values one iota. He's the same Joe Jamail today that he was when he didn't have all that money.
Joe doesn't wear diamonds. He doesn't wear expensive watches. Lee was a very careful shopper herself. They didn't behave in such a fashion to leave the impression that you were going to be judged by what you own, but more about what you are and what you do. Joe's given away a lot more money than he's ever spent on himself.
Even if he couldn't have made a dime, he'd still take on every case to help the little person that he took on, because that's what makes him thrive.
I can tell you this, if I got in any kind of legal situation, first call I'd make would be Joe. And you know what it'd cost me? $0.
The future of the University of Texas School of Law is one of vaulting ambition. We're a wonderful law school, and I want us to be even greater still. It's hard to imagine the shaping of that commitment and its external prominence that wouldn't involve Joe by implication or otherwise.
If there's anyone coming along that is going to step into those loafers, I haven't seen him or her.
You tell me how many 80-year-old men plus get up and go to work every day. They just don't do it. It's retirement time.
I don't think Joe will ever slow down intentionally. You know, I think we all eventually will slow down, but it'll be a battle. You know, Joe will fight it all the way.
He won't be one of these people that'll retire, and he'll keep doing what he's doing, and that's fortunate for him, but it's also fortunate for the citizens of Houston and the people of Texas.
He doesn't have to prove anything to anybody, and I think that his days of contributing to this community are just beginning.